Well, welcome, folks, to this edition of the 700 Club. The merchandise trade deficit of the United States hit a record $891 billion, the highest in history, despite all of these tariffs have been in effect. And my wife's favorite program, I might add, is something called Jeopardy. And Jeopardy's Alex Trebek says he'll beat stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And he says he has to beat it because he's under contract for another 3 more years. And ABC's David Muir hits #1 in audience key demographics. And there's some thought that CBS at the bottom of the heap will move Norah O'Donnell into the anchor role in the evening news. But first, the Democratic Party is in meltdown as it tries to deal with charges of anti-Semitism. Once again, a freshman congresswoman is giving the leadership headaches over her controversial remarks.
Well, younger Democrats are calling on the party to support Representative Ilhan Omar, but seasoned leaders say the party should condemn the comments. Amber Strong has the report from Washington.
House Democrats delayed a vote on a resolution condemning anti-Semitism. This after a party meeting erupted over disagreements over how to deal with the latest controversial statements from Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. There's a tear in the big tent as Democrats grapple over the right way to deal with controversial comments from freshman Congresswoman Ilhan Omar.
A political influence in this country that says it is okay for people to push for allegiance to a foreign country.
Omar was referring to lawmakers who support Israel, and that led to accusations of anti-Semitism by members of her own party. House leadership hoped to vote on a resolution condemning the statements, but not naming Omar. But her supporters in the House say the resolution needs to be broader, and that criticism of Israel doesn't always equate to anti-Semitism. Presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders stating, "We must not equate anti-Semitism with the legitimate criticism of the right-wing Netanyahu government." CBN News chief political analyst David Brody says the rebuke from Democrats needs to be clear.
It doesn't mention her name. That's a watered-down situation. They're also talking about, well, we need to put anti-Muslim bias in there as well. So, it's watered down after watered down.
President Trump weighed in, tweeting, "It is shameful that House Democrats won't take a stronger stand against anti-Semitism." It's not the first time Omar has gotten into hot water with statements about Israel. She's had to apologize before. Now a number of Republicans are calling for Omar to be removed from her seat on the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
It's unconscionable for any member of the United States Congress, even less a member of the House Foreign Relations Committee, to repeatedly traffic in base stereotypes.
Democrats say the GOP needs to take a look in the mirror.
And when has he ever said anything about the hateful remarks that continue to flow out of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
Regardless, former Democratic VP nominee Joe Lieberman says Congress should send a message to its members.
When people say words that are biased, bigoted, and hurtful, they have to be condemned.
The House Foreign Affairs Committee has taken over the measure, and there's no word as to when that vote will take place. Amber Strong, CBN News, Washington.
One of the cardinal rules in politics, when your enemy is destroying himself, don't interfere. And I think the Republicans should keep their hands off, let the Democrats destroy each other. That's what they want. Well, in other news, another Democrat newcomer to Congress is causing problems for the leadership. John Jessup has more on that.
Thanks, Pat. Michigan Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib announced she'll file a resolution to impeach President Trump against the wishes of Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
If we don't hold impeachment proceedings today, start them today and hold him accountable to following the United States Constitution, think about that.
After her remarks, demonstrators went straight to Speaker Pelosi's office calling for her support. Pelosi and other Democratic leaders say it's too soon to talk impeachment. They want to wait and see what the House investigations into the president turn up. Well, an attorney for Michael Cohen says Trump's former personal lawyer did initiate talks about a pardon with the president's legal team. Lanny Davis cited in media reports today saying Cohen directed his lawyers to explore the possibility of a pardon with Trump's attorneys. That's an apparent contradiction to Cohen's statement last week to Congress when he said he never asked for a pardon from the president. Cohen's critics, Pat, point out that he's lied to Congress before.
I don't know why they're making such a hero of this guy. I mean, he has lied and lied. He's convicted of lying. He goes before a congressional committee. He's under oath to tell the truth. He raises his hand. I swear I will tell the truth. And then he lied about the fact that he wanted a pardon. Unbelievable. And yet the media is just coming all over him. Everything he says they're taking as if it's the gospel. It's not. He is a liar. He's a big-time liar. And I think, but the media has made a darling out of him because he's criticizing the man they hate, and that's Trump. John?
Pat, the Trump administration is telling border agents to target immigrants from Latin America and require asylum seekers to wait in Mexico. This as testimony from Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen revealed a 300% increase in detentions at some parts of the border. CBN's White House correspondent Ben Kennedy has more.
Secretary Nielsen called the current projections dire. She says it is a crisis and border officers are on track to apprehend 1 million people this year.
The current system isn't working.
That's because it's not designed to handle the record number of people at the southern border. Homeland Security Kirstjen Nielsen broke down the stats to Capitol Hill lawmakers. She said border arrests spiked to nearly 75,000 people last month alone. That's up 80% over the same time last year.
These increases will overwhelm the system entirely. This is not a manufactured crisis. This is truly an emergency.
The Customs and Border Protection Commissioner says his agency is at a breaking point.
We are facing alarming trends.
The trends are caused, he said, by criminal organizations exploiting U.S. immigration laws.
This increased flow presents, currently at our highest levels in over a decade, both a border security and a humanitarian crisis.
CBN contributor Chuck Holton shared his firsthand experience at the border on Faith Nation.
I live in Latin America, so I hear this all the time. People know that the Democrats in Congress in the United States are on their side and are doing everything they can to make it possible for them to get into the U.S., and they're taking advantage of that now.
These staggering numbers are a major reason President Trump declared a national emergency at the border. Nielsen says we need more manpower, technology, and border barriers to combat the crisis.
Have you advised the president on his emergency declaration? Have you given him the grounds for this emergency declaration in the context of what emergency means?
What I have done is I've given him all the facts.
But the commander-in-chief is getting congressional pushback, including the Republican-controlled Senate, which could block the president's declaration. Critics argue it's an abuse of authority and warn it would open a door for future presidents.
I think what is clear in the Senate is there will be enough votes to pass the resolution of disapproval.
The Senate is expected to vote in the next 2 weeks. If they vote as expected, the president will veto it. It is highly unlikely Congress will have enough votes to overturn that veto. But in the meantime, Secretary Nielsen warns border crossings are only going to increase as the weather warms up. Ben Kennedy, CBN News, the White House.
Setting the stage for a showdown over this resolution. Pat, back to you.
You know, I just don't understand what the thinking is in Congress. These people come to us and they want free health care. They want food and clothes. They want whatever else we give in terms of education. They want to be treated as citizens. And they want to have a good life here. You can't blame somebody for wanting to have a good life. But no country can just be overwhelmed with people from a foreign nation. It can't happen. Borders are important, and the integrity of your system is important. And we provide here in this country a superb system of health care, et cetera. But if it's drained out for all these immigrants by the thousands that are coming in, how can we accommodate several 100 million people from Latin America? They'll all want to come to the United States. And Congress has got to do something. And there's some people who say, well, the word is out that we're going to close the border, and therefore they're trying to get in before the closing. But more particularly is that there's so many loopholes in the law, they know that they can get across the border, put their feet on the soil, especially bring children with them, that they will be granted some kind of asylum or at least access to a immigration court. The courts are jammed. Those who deal with it say we are jammed. We can't handle it. And it is an emergency. And now the Senate is getting ready to vote, And a lot of the Republicans, the ones who are voting against the resolution, are saying, well, but what will happen if the Democrats take charge? They'll do the same thing to us. Well, you can't deal your policy saying, well, what will the other guys do if they have the same position we're in? We need to do it now, and those people need to support the president now, but they're not going to do it. So he's going to veto this legislation that's coming up through the Senate, but, you know, so what? As I mentioned before, despite the tariffs, we've had a record deficit, and John has more about the trade deficit.
That's right, Pat. As you were saying at the top of the show, the U.S. trade deficit in goods hit its highest level ever last year, reaching $891.3 billion. Imports rose as the American economy remained strong, increasing demand for products from the rest of the world. But exports fell as the global economy cooled off. Some economists also blame President Trump's tariffs against China. The overall trade deficit, including both goods and services, hit a 10-year high. Well, coalition forces may only be days away from defeating ISIS in Syria. As Chris Mitchell reports from northeast Syria, American allies are remembering the sacrifice of their fallen comrades, hoping for a brighter future.
That's a sound of victory as one of the final ISIS weapons depots goes up in flames. One more sign the end of the Islamic State Caliphate is near. While the U.S. provides air support, this prolonged fight has also required boots on the ground. In 2015, the city of Kobani was the epicenter in the battle against the Islamic State. Nearly 4 years later, you can still see much of the destruction. It was also the beginning of the U.S.-led coalition to defeat ISIS. Those fighting alongside U.S. troops are a team of Kurds, Arabs, Christians, and others called the Syrian Democratic Forces, or SDF.
This alliance managed to repel ISIS attacks from Kobani and from Tel Aviv and other areas. And later, after the formation of the SDF, we managed to defeat ISIS terrorism from all North and East Syria.
As the front lines shifted to the south, these men and women paid a high price as they took back territory from the Islamic State.
The Syrian people gave a lot of sacrifices. I think we have more than 9,000 or 10,000 martyrs who sacrificed their lives during the fight to defeat terrorism in the area.
Aram suffered great personal loss.
Personally, I know all of these friends. I lose them on the field. We were fighting together against ISIS, and we lose them in real sad occasions. We find that they are really our motivation to stand up every morning and fight again and win this war.
They fought side by side and now are buried side by side. Even Christians and Muslims. Reem Mardau takes care of this cemetery.
They sacrifice themselves and give their souls to keep us in safety and at peace. And at least we can just take care of this cemetery for them. This is our duty.
The living now fight for a new way of life here, where everyone is equal.
It's the first time that we feel we can take our decision by our minds. It's the first time that we live in justice together. No one is better than me, I am no better from anyone here.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Kobani, northeast Syria.
Thanks, Chris. Well, sad news to report here. Longtime Jeopardy host Alex Trebek is suffering advanced pancreatic cancer. The 78-year-old made the announcement Wednesday directly to Jeopardy fans on video. Trebek says although the prognosis is not encouraging, he plans to fight.
I'm going to fight this, and I'm going to keep working, and with the love and support of my family and friends, and with the help of your prayers also, I plan to beat the low survival rate statistics for this disease.
And certainly a lot of people will be praying for him. Pat?
Well, I say, that's one of your favorites, not your...
Andy and I watch it almost every night.
Well, my wife, that is her program. I mean, he's known as her program. You know, Merv Griffin came up with that show, and he said, well, this problem is there's not enough Jeopardy in it. And so he put in the Jeopardy. And then he did the theme song. He wrote the theme song. And
he was the genius of
extremely so. He really was. But anyhow,
we wish him well.
Yeah, Alex Trebek's a great guy. So pray for him. You know, he's a fighter, and we're glad to see that.